I'll try. I'll try. Okay, I will tell you. Good evening. We're going to talk about PARASHAT Chukat, the parsha of this week, right? The parsha Shavua, the portion of this week. So this portion starts with an interesting narrative regarding the Paraduma. What is this Paraduma? We're talking about a red heifer, right? What does that mean? A small cow, which is totally red, has to be totally red. The communist, it's a communist cow, right? So what does that mean? That even if it has two hairs on the body, which are like brown or black, it's disqualified from this. They have to find a heifer which is totally red, and also it has to be that it wasn't used for any work, right? For any purposes of working, whatever. It wasn't right. It was just let it to lie fallow like that, go around graze,
Like
without being worked at all, right? So the idea is like this, right? They take this cow, they kill it, they burn it, and they make some kind of potion with it, with water and ashes and all kinds of stuff. And what it does is basically is that it purifies a person. What does that mean? If you touch a dead body, when a person touches a dead body, he becomes impure. Same applies, by the way, if he went to a graveyard, or he touched a tombstone, or he was in a room where a dead body was there, somebody died or somebody was dead there, a corpse was there, in the morgue, this kind of thing. So if a person encounters one of these things, he needs to be purified because this is tumat met, it's right, it's an impurity of the dead. So when a person has this impurity, he must sprinkle this potion that we're talking about here two times on the third day, on the seventh day, and then he becomes purified. So what does that mean? Once he does this ritual, now he's able to go back to the Bet HaMikdash. Because when you go into Bet HaMikdash, you have to be pure over there. It's not like going into a shul. The shul you can go in any way you want. Doesn't matter you're pure or not pure, whatever it is, right? When you go to the Bet HaMikdash, when you go to the temple, the holy temple, over there you got to be 100% pure. So therefore, if you have this tumah, if you have this impurity of the dead, we all have it today, by the way, because we all have been to a cemetery or whatever, all kinds of things like this. So whoever has been to a cemetery or touched a tombstone or touched a dead body, whatever it is, all these things, he is contaminated with this. We all have it today. There's no way for us to get rid of it because we don't have the potion. They say, right, that there was already 9 potions that were made like this throughout history. Moshe Rabbeinu made the first one, so forth, so on. The 10th one is going to be the 10th one. Number 10 is going to be made by Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, he's going to make number 10. So therefore, we're going to become all purified, cleansed from the impurity of the dead. Interesting idea. By the way, also there's another interesting angle here with this thing, which makes it very strange. The laws of this ritual. What's the strange thing? The strange thing is that all the people who prepare the potion, even though the potion is made to actually purify you, they sprinkle on you, you get purified. But the people who prepare the potion, all of them become contaminated. You understand? It's interesting, right? It contaminates them by preparing it, but the person who gets it sprinkled on becomes purified. So this is something very strange, like the opposite. Whatever, it's a contradiction in terms. Right. So therefore, right, Shlomo Melech, they say, when he came to this parsha, this narrative, he was the wisest of all men, like King Solomon, right? Nobody was wiser than him. You know why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu granted him a special wisdom. He came to him in a dream one time, right? As a prophecy, got prophecy. As he was building the Beit HaMikdash, he was building the temple, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked him, says, you know what? He says, since you're a good boy, you're building my temple, I like you, You're my kind of guy. So he says, you know what? Make any request you want, and I'll grant it to you. Anything you ask me, I grant you. So he could have asked many things. He could have said, I want wealth, I want power, I want political power, right? All kinds of things. I want hedge funds, I want all kinds of things, right? Okay. What did he ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for? He says, I don't want anything else, just one thing I want. I want wisdom, because I'm a 12-year-old kid. I was just appointed to be the king of Israel. He was 12 years old when he was appointed to be king. A little kid, Can you imagine? A little tyke. A little tykey kid. So he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu one thing. He says, you know what? Just grant me wisdom. That's all I ask of you. It's the only thing I ask. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu granted him because he asked of this. He says, you know what? He says, since you ask me for wisdom, I'm going to grant you wisdom like you asked me. But since you didn't ask for the other things which are more like material, like wealth and power, he says, I'm going to give you that too because like a bonus, You understand? You get a bonus because you asked since you had the right priorities by asking for wisdom instead of asking for material, so I'll grant you everything. You get the whole pie, you get the whole cake. And eat it too, right? That's the idea, right? That's the idea. So therefore he gave him special wisdom. That's why Shlomo Melech was the wisest man that ever lived, they say, right? So they say that, he knew all those deepest secrets of the world, all the Kabbalah, all kinds of things. But he says when he came to this parasha, of Paraduma, he said, I don't understand how this works. How is it that the people who prepare, right, this potion, they're pure, they're impure, but the ones who get sprinkled on are pure? How can it be, right? Just the opposite. What kind of thing is this, right? So the truth is, right, that the most simple answer that you can give on this, you know what it is? The most simple answer is that this is called something which is called a chok. What does that mean? It's a mitzvah which doesn't have a logical reason. There are many mitzvot, by the way, that we have in the Torah, which have really no logic to them. There's no apparent logic over here. So, nevertheless, even though there's no apparent logic, a person has to believe in that. He has to believe that this is a challenge of the Jew, right? That sometimes things which are not logical, but nevertheless, he has to believe that since HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded me, I have to keep that, even though I don't understand the reason behind it. When a person does that, he demonstrates that he really believes in God, right? 100%. He doesn't understand the reasons behind it, but he still does it. Why? Because he was commanded so, right? When God tells you, he's the manufacturer, he's the one who made you. If you don't believe what he tells you, right, who are you going to believe? You know what I mean? So this is really the best solution. But anyway, right, I wanted to tell you regarding the issue of Tuman Tahara, purity and impurity, right? So we find here in the Zohar Kadosh something amazing it says about this, right? Because the truth is that these laws about Paraduma are not so practical today. Why? Because we don't have this potion today. We don't have it, right? So the question is, what is it coming to teach us for us, our everyday life, our practical life that we live? So you know what the answer is, Rabotai? The answer is something amazing. That it's coming to teach you here that there are states of purity and impurity in a person, depending on where he is in life. One of the most shocking things about purity and impurity, you know what it is? That the Jew, the body of the Jew, right, is very sanctified, it's very holy. You know why? Because the Jews are giving holy souls. The soul of the Jew is much more holy than anybody else. So what happens is, right, that a Jew is very sanctified when he's alive. He has a very big sanctity. You can feel that, by the way. If you really tune into your sanctity as a Jew, you read the Bible, you read the Torah, you can tune into that. You feel it, how holy a Jew is. So what I'm telling you is like this. Interesting, right? The interesting thing is, though, that once a Jew dies, though, right, the body becomes defiled. It becomes impure. That's the interesting thing, right? Once a Jew dies, it becomes defiled and impure. So what does that mean? That this is the reason why when a person touches a dead body, as we mentioned already, right? Or he goes into a cemetery, even though it's a Jewish cemetery, he becomes defiled over there. So what does that mean? What is this contradiction, right? On the one hand, a Jew is considered to be the holiest thing in the world, his neshama, his soul, but when he dies, considered to be the most impure thing in the world. How is that? How is that contradiction? Anybody have an idea? You guys have an idea what we're talking about?
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. So you know what the answer is? The answer is, right, explained in the Zohar Kadosh. This is very deep stuff from the Kabbalah. It says over here that the soul of the Jew, right, the way it works is like this. When the Jew is alive, he's very sanctified, his soul is very, very holy. What happens is that once that soul leaves, when he dies, then the body becomes totally contaminated and impure. Why is that? Because there are impure forces in the world. There are impure, like demons, souls, which are from the side of evil, and these souls are looking for a body to attach to. You know why? Because they don't have a body. When they were created, these souls, these ghouls, right, whatever, these ghosts, whatever, these demons, they don't have a body to attach to. And every soul, every spiritual being is longing to attach to a body in this world. You understand? So what happens is that once these evil souls, right, they get a chance to go into a Jewish body. What does that mean? That since now the holy soul of Jew left, they have a chance to go in there and attach themselves to it. So therefore what happens is, right, that they go in, they enter into the Jewish person's body, they attach themselves to the body, they cling to the body, and that's why the body becomes defiled. You know why? Because those evil souls need to attach to a body. And then what they do is they attach to themselves to a dead body. Because when the body is alive, all the while the soul is alive, they can't attach to it. So what happens is that now, this is why the Jewish body becomes so contaminated when it's dead. Because all the evil forces go in there and they dwell in there. They make that to a dwelling place. That's why when you get so spooked out, like when you look at a dead body, or you go into a cemetery, it spooks you out, right? You get spooked by that. You go into these places. Why is that? Because all the evil forces are over there. What are they doing there? What's their business over there? You know why? Because since there's dead bodies over there, they want to attach to those dead bodies. They want to attach themselves. So therefore, what they do is they attach themselves. They cling to the dead body, and because of that, these dead bodies, when you look at them, you see some kind of evil there. Some kind of something unclean there. This is what's going on with the dead bodies. This is the reason why you get so spooked out by these things. Now, this is the nature of the Jewish body and soul, right? What about the goy? That's the question, right? The goy is a different mechanism altogether. What does that mean? The goy, just the opposite of what we said about the Jew. What does that mean? That when the goy is alive, his body, right? His body is totally contaminated. You know why? Why is that? Because their neshamot, says the Zohar Kadosh, the neshama of the goy comes from the klipot, comes from the impure side. There's 3 levels of impurity in the neshama of the goy, and there's 3 different types, but they're all impure. There's number 1, right? Number 2, number 3, right? Different levels, different grades. Right? There are neshamot of the goyim that are more righteous, so they're more closer to the kedusha, more closer to righteousness. But they're still on the side of the tumah. They're still on the impure side, but they're close. They're like right next to the door. So to us, it seems like they're more holy, and they are. They're closer to the holiness. But nevertheless, what we're saying is, right, that since the neshama of the goy is totally impure, so therefore, when the goy is alive, he is an embodiment of impurity. He exudes, the spiritual filth. That's what it is. That's what it is. And this is the reason why. This is the reason why a person is not allowed to look at the face of a goy. He's not allowed to stare at a goy. You can look at him for a short time just to see, identify, whatever, see who he is. But they say, right, you shouldn't look at the face of a goy. You know why? Because since they're all contaminated, the soul, right? Therefore, when you look at him, the contamination is, you get that contamination on yourself. You get contaminated by that, right? So that's why the rabbis made all kinds of decrees not to come close to the goy, not to physical contact with them, right? So what happens is that the goy contaminates you by 2 ways: by looking at him, and also by clinging to him. What does that mean? To attach yourself to him, to become friendly. And that's why, right, a person shouldn't become too close, friendly to a goy. You know why? Because the goy, by his nature, contaminates whoever is around him. He'll tell you all kinds of heretical things, this nonsense that he believes in. He'll contaminate you with his body, with his beliefs, with his false ideas. It's all contamination. That's what it is. So when a goy is alive, he is a walking impure item. That's what it is. You understand? You know why? Because their souls are not pure. Unless of course they convert, right? That's a different issue. If they do a real conversion, so then they get a new neshama. That's why, right? A person who's a convert is considered to be like a newborn. A goy who converts to Judaism, he's a new creation. That's something else. He gets a new neshama. That's why he put him in the mikveh and all these rituals that we did, right? You saw we did all kinds of things. You saw parts of what we did, right? There were also other things you didn't see. But the point is, right, that because of that, a person, the Torah warns us, don't become too friendly with a goy, too close. Don't stare at him too much, because you get bad influence from that. All the impure influence. Yeah, you can do business with him. You can become partnership, yes. Even though, by the way, in the old days this was forbidden for several reasons. Nowadays we do allow it, because in the old days there was certain issues regarding that they're going to mention their idol, their idol when they swear. But today they don't do that, so we're not so concerned about that. So the truth is, you're allowed to do business with a goy, no problem with that, right? But when you come too close, as a friend, like too inviting him over your house to eat and this kind of thing, this is very bad, because they say, right, that when you do that, you get close to a goy, you're contaminating yourself. You should know, it's like, you're getting a disease. Spiritually, you're diseasing yourself. That's what it is. All the more so, God forbid, right, that if a person, marries a goy, right, then he totally becomes contaminated by that. Until he loses his olam haba. He loses a portion in the world to come. You know why? Because when you marry a goya, when a Jewish man marries a non-Jewish right woman, it's because they say, right, the Chazal, it's like he's doing avodah zarah, he's doing idolatry. Why is that? He's not doing idolatry. Maybe he's not idolatrous, but the fact that he attached himself to her is like idolatry. That's already idolatry. That's what it is. It's like the worst contamination that a person can get. How far does it go? No portion of the world to come. Right? So what happens is like this now. Interesting, right? The goy has this power to contaminate you because he's contaminated. But now the question is, what about the issue when they die? Right? What happens when they die? So the truth is, when they die, they become better. What does that mean? Right? That if you go into a place where a dead body of a goy, right, is there, you don't get contaminated by that. Even though if it was a Jew, you do get contaminated. Right? It's just the opposite. So the question is why? You know why? Because what happens is that when they die, the soul leaves them. The contaminated soul they have leaves them. So therefore, they become less contaminated. So now they don't have. So what does that mean? That when the goy dies, just the opposite effect, right? He becomes now more pure. So we're not so concerned about the dead body of a goy as we are concerned about the dead body of a Jew. The dead body of a Jew is worse. Why is that? Because since the holy soul left, contamination came in and took effect over there, right? When he's dead, they come in. Those evil forces, the ghosts, the ghouls, the demons, right? All kinds of things. They come in and they dwell there. You know, that's the thing. When it comes to the goy, just the opposite, right? That what? That since his soul is tameh, it's not pure. His soul comes from the klipot. So therefore, when he leaves the body, he becomes better. This is the idea. You know. So therefore, if you go into a place where, as we said, right, a dead non-Jewish man is there, dead body, a corpse, he doesn't contaminate you when that happens. This is the idea. So there's also a little bit more that I have to tell you regarding this. It says the Kadosh like this. ואף אגב דגופא דלהון מסעב בין בחיון בין במיתתון, אבל בחיון דכל אינון מסעבין, משתכחה לגביו, אית לא נחלה לסועבה לאחריני. במיתתון דנפקא אינון מסעבין מנהיו לא יכלי לסעבה. ודישראל יחי לסעבה לאחריני, בגין דכל קדישה נפקין מיניה ושאר לסיתה אחרה. Right? So this is exactly what I just read to you, is exactly what I just explained, right, 2 minutes ago, regarding this idea. So therefore, Rabbi, we see from there the severity of marrying, right, a non-Jew. Why is it so severe? Because their souls don't come from the same place that our souls come. We come from the side of Kedusha, they come from the side of Tumah. So it's like AC/DC, you know? You're mixing two different voltages there. You know, two different currents. AC/DC together, or you're mixing, two things which are not compatible. Plus and minus. You're putting together in one place. So therefore, right, this is all chas v'shalom, right? It's all contamination, this whole thing. The closer that a person gets to a goy, the more he contaminates himself. You know, whether it's his ideology, or whether it's his his countenance, or whether it's his lifestyle, the way he lives his life, the way he does all kinds of things like this. All for a Jew, this is all contamination. By the way, you know, one person told me, he said, you know what? He says, Rabbi, he said, there was one Jewish person I spoke to. They told me, he says, you know, I have a friend who's not Jewish, you know, but he says the truth is, I'm worse than him. You know, like I'm the one who's the troublemaker, not him. He's better than me. You know, so the truth is, that's a very interesting, right, a question. So you know what the answer is? When you attach yourself to a goy, you actually become worse than him. That's true. Why is that? Because he contaminates you. You know, you're actually helping him by attaching yourself, the holiness, to him. That helps him to get blessing. He gets blessed from that. But the fact that you're attached to him, he contaminates you. So what does that mean? That when a Jew goes down, he goes down even worse than the goy. That's what it is. You know, we see all these guys who are being arrested for all kinds of things. You know what I'm talking about in the news, right? All these lowlives, right? These lowlives, Weinstein, Epstein, right? Bronstein, whatever. All these losers, right? Why are these Jews they're in such a low state like that? You know why? Because when they attach themselves to the world of the goyim, they go down even worse than the goy. That's what it is. You know, these people are going down to a level which the Jew is either above the goy or is below the goy. It cannot be the same level as the goy. You know what I mean? When he attaches himself to the goyish world, he becomes lower than the goy. He becomes more contaminated than the goy. When he stays away from them, he becomes more elevated. Right? You know, like oil always rises to the top. You know, that's what the Jew is, right? The Jew is like the oil, always rises to the top. As long as he doesn't associate too closely with the goyim, because when he does that, he contaminates himself, becomes lower than them. And then the goy, he wonders, you know, the goy starts to wonder about the Jew who does that. Why is this guy so corrupted? He's a Jew. He's supposed to be better than me. He's a chosen people. You know why? Because he attached himself to you. That's why. When he attaches himself to your lifestyle, he becomes worse than you. This is the idea. So therefore, Rabbi, a person This is a deal breaker. You understand? When a person does this, he intermarries or he associates with goyim, gets close to them, especially bodily contact and all kinds, kissing and hugging and relations, sexual. This he totally contaminates himself until the end. It becomes so bad that he doesn't have any portion of the world to come. Right? This is the idea. Okay, so getting back to what we said, Rabbi, we're getting back to our parsha over here. That we talked about the issue of Tuman Tahara. So now we're going to talk more about the other stories which are brought down in this parak, in this parasha. We have also here the story about Moshe Rabbeinu. What happened to him, right? What happened to him? Moshe Rabbeinu here had a big tragedy, right, that occurred to him. They came to a certain place to camp there, and what happened was that Miriam died at that time, right? The sister of Moshe Rabbeinu died. So what happened was that the well of Miriam, where they were getting the water, that's where they were getting the water from. The merit of Miriam was supplying them with the water in the desert. So what happened was that once Miriam died, the well disappeared, right? Disappeared, went away. So what happened was now all of a sudden they have no water to drink. You understand? We have 2 million Jews, right? 3 million Jews hanging around the desert with no water. Can you imagine? Right? So all of a sudden they start to complain to Moshe Rabbeinu, What happened? We have no more water, The sink is closed. You can't open it anymore, No, So I told him, why did you take us out from Mitzrayim? Why did you take us from Egypt? To kill us over in the desert. That's what you took us for. What that was us out for. Started to yell and scream, complain, The usual,
Move where the food is.
So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu, he lost it over here a little bit. He lost his composure. Because he was being pressured so much, he lost his composure. So what happened was that Kadosh Baruch Hu told him, he said, you know what, I'm going to give you this rock over here. I want you to go and talk to the rock, and it's going to bring out water for the community, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu he lost his temper. He lost it. So what happened was that instead of talking to the rock, he hit the rock. You know what I mean?
Right.
And also he insulted the Jews over there, right? Why? Because he called them rebels. He says, you rebels, he says, you're always rebelling against God. Well, we're going to bring water for you now from this town. He insulted them, he lost his composure.
Just the waters of strife?
Right, exactly, right. So what happened was that now, Kadosh Baruch Hu, once he saw this whole episode, how it played out.
Mount Sinai.
Once they saw this episode, how it played out, you know what happened? Kadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, I'm sorry, but you and your brother Aharon, you're not going to take the Jewish people into Eretz Israel. You're going to die over here in the desert, right? Just like they're all going to die, as we said last week, we mentioned, right? You're also going to die, right? Why is that? Yes. So he says, why is that? Because he said, you didn't sanctify my name by talking to the stone. You should have done that. And instead, you hit it, with anger, and you insulted the Jews, and like that. So now you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose your life because of that.
Didn't the water come?
It came. But it didn't came the way Hashem wanted it. So Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, this is not the way I told you to do it. I told you to talk to the rock. I didn't tell you to hit it like that. And that's what I told him. So he says, therefore you're going to lose your life because of that. You forfeited your life, right? So what happened was that we need to analyze this a little bit, right? What happened over here? I mean, what does God care about this? Is this such a big sin like that? He lost his temper a little bit, whatever, Okay, so it happens to everybody. Can you imagine you have like millions of people ganging up on you, threatening to kill you, threatening all kinds of violence, all kinds of things like this. Who can handle that, right? It's a very pressureful situation, You got all of them on your back, CNN, MSNBC, criticizing you day and night, right? What happened over here? What happened? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Always trying to find some kind of, right, to undermine you. You know how it is, right? Fake news, all kinds of stuff. So this is exactly what happened, right? So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't take it. He lost his temper. He lost it. What can you do? Happens to the best of us. So what happened was that when he lost his temper, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, what I'm going to do to you now? That's it, you're done. You're cooked now. They're going to take you. You're not going to go into Eretz Israel. Right? I'm not talking about that scenario. That's a different scenario. That was before. The whole thing, right? So we have to understand, right? Is God really so strict about these things? I mean, for God's sakes, what did he do so wrong? What he did a sin? What part of the Torah did he break over here? He didn't, he lost his temper. So why did he have to get punished so severely regarding this misdemeanor that he committed? Right? It wasn't something so major like that. Let's face it, he did it the wrong way a little bit, in the wrong manner, whatever. He changed the format. So you know what the answer is, Rabbi? The Kadosh Baruch Hu needed to do it this way. Why is that? Because his plan was that Moshe Rabbeinu should not take the Jews into Eretz Israel. He didn't want that. Why is that? Because if Moshe Rabbeinu would take them to Eretz Israel, and he would build a Bet HaMikdash, Moshe Rabbeinu, so then what would happen is that Bet HaMikdash could not be destroyed. Whatever was done by the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu, by his leadership, was always going to be viable, never going to be destroyed. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was too much of a tzaddik, that the work of his hands should be destroyed. So therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, you know what? I prefer that you should not go in and build a temple. You know why? Because if you do it, I can't destroy the Bet HaMikdash. I can't destroy the temple. And then I'm going to have to destroy the Jews. When they sin, I'm going to have to punish the Jews on their bodies instead of punishing this temple, which is just stone and mortar. You understand? So he says, I prefer that you should not go in because of that, right? What does that mean? That the Jewish people were not yet ready for redemption, the final redemption at that time. There was still more things to be done, still more rectification that needs to be done. So therefore, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu had his plan that the redemption was not yet right in the works, in the cards yet, right? So therefore he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm sorry, but I had to find you some kind of excuse to throw you out. You know why? Because if you would go in there and you would build a temple, I wouldn't be able to destroy the temple, and I have to destroy the Jewish people, God forbid. So the only way I could do it, since the Jewish people are not yet ready for redemption, it's not going to be now, it's not going to be the second temple, it's going to be way, way down the road, right? 2,000 years, 3,000 years, and more, right? Plus. It's going to be more time. The Jewish people are not ready, so I can't have you doing this right now. I can't have you. Because if you do it, it's it's going to be final. That's it. There's no going back. Nothing can be destroyed anymore. Whatever you do cannot be destroyed. So therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu found an excuse, to give Moshe Rabbeinu the boot, kick him out. That's what he did. The truth is, that he was also liable somewhat to what the punishment that he got. You know why? What was the liability? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we already mentioned, right, several months ago, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the leadership to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Jewish people, he warned them about one thing. He says, listen, he says, I'm giving you leadership of the Jewish people. You're going to be the leader. But I'm warning you about one thing. The Jewish people are very tough. They always complain. They're always going to be complaining against you. They're always going to be suing you, right? All kinds of things, false accusations. They're going to be screaming at you, yelling at you. They're going to just denigrate you.
Trump.
Right. They're going to give you hell. That's what they're going to give you. So he says, do you agree? Only if you agree to that, I make you the leader. Otherwise, I can't make you the leader. Because the Jewish people are very troublesome people. They're quarrelsome. They're troublesome. They like to make strife. They like to complain. They like to do all kinds of things like this. If you agree to that, you can be their leader. Otherwise, don't. You're not gonna hack it. So since Moshe Rabbeinu, right, accepted this, he knew what he was getting into. So therefore, now HaKadosh Baruch Hu had that excuse to punish him. He says, listen, I told you they're gonna be tough on you. They're gonna denigrate you. But you couldn't take it, You lost your temper and you started to scream and yell. Started to lose your temper. So I got you now. You see. Right? I already warned you about this before, right? So therefore, right, since I warned you and you didn't take my warning, you didn't heed, right? You lost your temper, you lost your composure. Too bad. Now you're going to have to, suffer the consequences, my friend, right? They say, by the way, the Chazal regarding Moshe Rabbeinu, at least there was some reason, there was some excuse. Okay, there was some justification, as we just mentioned. But when it comes to Aaron, what did he do wrong, right? He was also excluded from going in by this narrative. Aaron didn't do anything, right? So you see from there, right, there was all some kind of an excuse. Kadosh Baruch Hu made an excuse not to let them in. Aaron couldn't go in either.
Yeah, but Aaron said that the people made him do it.
You're talking about a different narrative, right? You're talking about the right. You're talking about the narrative of the calf, right? Exactly, the golden calf, right? So we're saying over here, right, that Aaron was punished for nothing over here. What does that mean? He didn't do nothing wrong. It was Moshe Rabbeinu that lost his temper. Aaron didn't lose his temper. So how did he get involved with this, right? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu didn't want them to bring in the Jews into Eretz Israel because of the reason we just mentioned. Because whatever they would do, these holy people, it could not be destroyed, it could not be nullified, right? So therefore, the plan had to be delayed from a different generation, for a different time, right? Different Enoch, right? Whatever. So that's the idea. So we also find, right, another interesting thing, the PARASHAT, which was the narrative of Aaron HaKohen, right? Aaron also died at this juncture, right? So what are we talking about? We're talking about just before they're going into Israel, after 40 years of being in the desert, now Aaron also dies. So once the Aaron died, there was also something else they lost, right? As we said, right? When it comes to Miriam, when Miriam died, they lost the well, the water, and they start to complain. When Aaron died, they also lost something else as well. Why? Because in the merit of Aaron was the clouds of glory that they had, protecting them from the enemies. Right? It was in the merit. So once Aaron died, those clouds of glory also disappeared. Right? All of a sudden, they're like naked, Everybody can see them from all around. No protection, right? That's the way it was. So what happened was that at that point there was the enemy, right, who saw them that they were naked like that. They had no protection anymore. You know who that was? Amalek, right? The sons of Esav, who are the arch enemy of the Jewish people. So once they saw that the clouds disappeared, they said, you know what? Now we can go maybe and attack the Jews. They have no protection anymore. So they went and they attacked. So what did they do? They pulled like a dirty trick over here, right? What was the dirty trick? They knew that the power of the Jews is in their prayers. If they would pray to Hashem to save them in the war against Amalek, so Hashem would save them. So what they did was, you know what? We have to devise a way, a scheme, to prevent them from praying about this war. So you know what they did? What they did was that they put on costumes as if like they were a different nation. They started to dress up like a different nation, so they shouldn't look like Amalek. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? That when they came to fight the war against the Jews, this war, the Jews didn't know that they were Amalek because they were dressed like a different nation. They were wearing a different clothing, right? Gypsy clothing, right? Whatever, So it looked like gypsies, whatever, Canaanites, whatever, right? So because of that, they said, you know what? Since the Jews don't know that we're Amalek, they're not gonna be able to pray properly, right? To save us from this nation. They don't even know which nation it is, right? So they're gonna get the wrong nation, so therefore they're not gonna be able to pray properly, right? Nevertheless, whatever happened was that in the end, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to defeat them, right? And Amalek in this battle as well. But they pulled like a fast one over here, you understand, to try to attack the Jewish people. Why they tried to do that? Because they saw the clouds of glory disappeared. Once they saw that, they said, you know what? Now the Jews are like open season, hunting season. Let's go for it, No more, their protection is lost. They didn't realize that Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? What happened was that in the end, even though they lost these two things because these two tzaddikim died, right? They lost the well because of Miriam. They lost the clouds because of Aaron. What happened was that because of the zchut of Moshe Rabbeinu, Kadosh Baruch Hu returned to them anyway. The Moshe Rabbeinu had so much merit that all now these things were restored because of his merit. So therefore everything was restored. That's what happened, right? And this is why Amalek wasn't able to defeat them, whatever. So this is the idea. So once they prayed, once they found out that it was really right Amalek, once they found out, because you know how they found out? Even though they were dressed up as a different nation, how they found that it was Amalek? You know why? Because the Amalekim, they don't look the same like those nations. The Canaanites, right, were like more like dark people, like Africans more, like this kind of thing, whatever. But the Amalek, they were white people, they're from Esav. Esav, they're white people. They're our brothers, So we're white boys, understand? So because of that, Amalek, they were white, so that's how they noticed. They said, wait a second, they're dressed like, different nation, but they're white. Look Germanic, kind of looking, They look Germanic. So because of that, exactly. So there must be Amalek. They realized, in the end that it was Amalek because of that. Yeah. This is the idea. Also, one other thing I want to mention right before we go,
true Jews, the black,
is that there was an interesting event over here that occurred in this parasha, which was that the fact that they needed to now, once they came close to Eretz Israel, to actually enter into the land. The problem was that Eretz Israel was surrounded by neighbors, hostile neighbors, So therefore, they needed an avenue, a pathway to get in there. It was all surrounded. So they had to ask one of those nations permission to bypass their territory in order to get into Eretz Israel.
Gangs.
Right. That was the idea. So what happened was, right, they said, you know what? Let's go to our brothers, Edom, the Esav, the Romans, that's Esav, right? So let's go to those guys. They're our brothers, we can make a deal, we can kind of deal with them, brothers are brothers, right? That's what happened. So what happened was that he sent a letter, Moshe Rabbeinu sent a letter to the king of Edom, to the king of Esav. And he said, he says, my dear brother Esav, we just came out of Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us, we prayed, and we were saved, we have salvation. So he says, do us a favor, all we ask you is one thing, just let us go through, give us a pathway to go through. We're not going to do anything bad to your land, no damage, whatever we damage, we guarantee, right? We pay for it. Right? No issues, no problems. All we need is just one pathway, one highway. Give us a highway so we can just traverse the highway and go into the land of Israel. So,
my way,
right now, see what happens, right? Right. I did it my way, right? That's what you said, right? Did it my way. So what happens is, right, that Edom, once they got this letter from Moshe Rabbeinu, Esav, so what happened was they sent back a response. What was the response? The response was, says, I'm sorry, my dear brother, we know we are your brothers. I mean, but there's no way for you to pass by our land. So the question is why, right? So what they did was, these people were like sneaky, they were smart. So instead of saying the real truth that they didn't really want them to pass by, they didn't want to help them. So they made up some kind of cockamamie excuse, politics, politically correct excuse they made. You know what I mean? So they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, they said, we're sorry, but we'd really love to let you go through. We have no problem with that. But you know what the problem is? He says, well, I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is that we have some population, amongst us. In Esav, in Edom, it says they're like rednecks, very violent people. They have if you go to their basement, they have ammunition, their submachine guns, AR-15s, right? They're loaded with weapons. These rednecks, how it is, right? These neo-Nazis, right? Whatever. They're loaded, right, with weapons in their basement. So he says, you know what? He says, we're afraid. We're doing this for your sake. We're telling you, right? We don't mind, we personally don't mind, but you should know we have rednecks. So these rednecks, what they're going to do? If they see you passing by, they're going to start shooting at you. There's going to be violence, be careful. And we're not going to be able to stop that. It's one little guy, may come, some crazy vigilante, and shoot you up, Parkland, this and that, all kinds of things. You know how it is, right? These vigilantes, they come. so this was all fake, you understand? They were trying to say, right, in a political way, we don't want you to come through, get lost, jump in the lake, go jump in the lake, You want to get into Eretz Israel? Jump in the water, swim over. That's what they told them.
Swim the river.
Exactly. That's what they told them, right? So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to ask again, right, to let them through. He tried one more time. Yeah, So he says, listen, he says, we understand, situation may be a little bit difficult, whatever, but he says, you should know, we're not going to make any problems. And not only that, he says, you know what, we're going to buy from you, purchase from you, right, food and drinks, you're going to get profit from that too. We're not going to just come through for free. You're going to get gratuities, There's going to be gratuities for you. So what happens is he tells them like this, just let us pass through. We'll just go on the highway. We won't deviate. Nobody's going to deviate off the highway, right? Just give us 95. Give us 95, right? That's it. Let us just go through 95. Give us one highway. We'll buy from you water. Even though we have water and drinks, we have everything. We have all the soda pop. We have everything. But just to give you a little bit of business, we'll get you gratuity. We'll buy from you. Just to give it to you. It's a benefit. Right? Exactly. All those goodies, right? Right? The crunchies, goodies, snacks, right? All kinds of stuff, right? Exactly. So what happened was, right, that once they got the second letter, right, they sent like an army, like some people, some tough guys over there, some rednecks, to stand by the border, armed. They said, you're not going to come through. They'll say, they warned the Jews, don't you dare come through here. That's what they said, right? So what happened was the Jews were not able to go through the land of Esav to get into Eretz Israel. They needed some kind of avenue, right, to cut through there. So Esav didn't let them through. Can you imagine? So you see, right? He's your brother, but this kind of brother. If you have brothers like this, right? Who needs enemies, right? Who needs enemies? When you're a brother like that, you understand? So they play all kinds of political games like this. You understand? Oh yeah, we have people, we can't control them. These rednecks, they're going to come and shoot you. Vigilantes, AR-15s, all kinds of stuff. Parkland, this, right? All kinds of stuff. It's going to be like this kind of stuff. They're going to shoot you up. We have all kinds of strange people in our midst. We can't control them. Pittsburgh, all kinds of stuff. Texas, Florida, this, that, right? You know how these guys are. They have, their assault rifles, right? Las Vegas, right? Whatever, Those guys, they're everywhere, That's the way it is. So they said, we're sorry, but the casino, right? Yeah, the famous one, right over there. So we have these guys, they're crazy. They're Nazis people. We can't control them. There's no way for us to control them. But really, the truth was, they didn't want them to pass by. They didn't want to do the kindness. This is what you get from your brother. When you're a brother like that.
So, Rabbi, the Goyim are brothers in a sense.
We're talking about the Esav here. We're talking about the nation of Esav. Esav and Yaakov were twin brothers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is not. We're not talking about the Africans. We're not talking about those
So
Bible Jews. From Africa. Those guys, those jokers, right?
The Goyim
Yeah.
are in fact our brothers.
At least Esav, yeah. At least Esav. Not all of them. Esav and Ishmael, yeah.
Esav and Ishmael.
Yeah. Even though there's other nations mixed with them, you understand? There's a whole bunch of nations mixed with them. They're all together, but the real Edomites, the ones who are from Edom, from Esav, they're twin brothers. We're twins.
Why, let me ask,
This
so why,
day, yeah.
so why are we really hated? Is it because we're so close to the Muslims, the Arabs?
So you know what they say, right? Regarding the hatred, they say that the word Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, right? The word Sinah, you know what that means in Hebrew? Hatred. So why is it that they call it Mount Sinai the Har? Right, exactly, the mountain of hate. They say once we got the Torah, that's what caused them to hate us, because now we became the chosen people. They're jealous of us.
Yeah,
They
but
did.
they were offered the Torah.
Right, but they rejected. So when you become a reject, and this person, there's a good brother, there's a bad brother. There's one good brother, who was passed all his tests, got degrees, became a professional doctor, this and that. Everybody likes him, And there's a bad brother, became a drug addict, shooting up heroin. You know what I mean? They're brothers, but you know what I mean. He's gonna be jealous, obviously, of his brother. You know what I mean? That's the way.
I like the way you present Ishmael and Esau when they were offered the Torah, and they said, "Oh, we'd love to accept it, but we steal. We're thieves."
Right.
So
Yeah. That was Ishmael, right? But when Esau, there was killing. There was killing.
Esau,
Killing. We're killers, right?
Is that actually? It's not a riddle. It's actually a true.
Yeah, it's a true story. Yeah, it's a true
That's
story.
what
Yeah,
they said.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, they rejected it because of that. Okay, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen, Amen. Chazak u'Baruch. Thanks for coming. Good night. Laila Tov. See you Thursday.
Right. Thanks.
You scared the hell